And then a few minutes go past, and I turn around, and he's still there with his girlfriend looking at me. And I'm like, what is going on? And then eventually he comes up to me and he says, "Excuse me, are you Cinematic Venom?" And I think the actual words came out of my mouth, "Get the fuck out of here." Because I just never thought I would ever be recognized.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Story Building, where I have moved into a new room. So, excuse me if my sheet blanket thing behind me is a tad askew. Today's guest is media critic, video producer, and someone who's agreed to speak to me for no reason. It is Robert Boor. Welcome to One Story Building.
Straight away, we got a meme in there. Very good.
Oh, hey, hey, I don't even say that in like a mocking kind of way. Like that's how I speak to my friends, like in real life. Whenever we go see a movie, I'm like, oh yeah, it made total sense how they went over there and did that thing. So yeah, I've I've felt that you and I are quite similar people, which I will get to eventually. It's what drew me to want to speak to you, but. That's for later. But what's first is that your internet handle, your nom de plume, as it were, is Cinematic Venom. Where did that name come from?
I was doing videos. This was way back, 2008, and I was making music at the time, and I needed a name for my music. And my friend just threw out sarcastic venom, just randomly, and I thought, oh, quite like that. And then it was probably the middle of that year when I discovered Brad Jones, Cinema Snob.
Hmm.
Loved his videos. I ended up binging a bunch of them, and I thought I want to I want to start doing this. So I only did a couple of reviews at that point, but I was very creative. I just called myself Sarcastic Venom Movies. Only did a couple of episodes and then just didn't bother pursuing it any further. A couple months after that is when I found Doug Walker, Nostalgia Critic, and again got addicted to his stuff. Watched a bunch of his reviews, and because his style was very different to Brad's, and it ended up being the style that I would emulate for years. I thought let's try this angry white guy yelling about movies thing. So it was just a play on the name. Had sarcastic venom,
Hmm.
cinematic venom. It was just literally a spin off onto it, and then it just stuck.
Hmm. And when people hear that name, they know what they're getting because Venom equals bad. So when you say Cinematic Venom, we assume that oh, okay, he's going to he's going to be negative about movies, and that's like a staple with like every single movie reviewer in the world now, where it's just, why do you think it's so popular and common for someone to critique something rather than create a series of videos praising something?
I think it can be like a combination. If you go and watch a movie and you really hate it, I think it's common nature to look up online to see if anyone else actually agrees with you. I think when I saw Joker 2, which I paid money to see that in the cinema, um, Joker 2 was so infuriating that I kind of had to go and look, and all I saw was IMDb review and review and review of people just completely slamming it.
Hmm.
On top of that, it's the same reason why, for a while, Let's Plays were very popular on YouTube, but particularly video games that are specifically designed to piss people off.
Hmm.
So people just enjoyed watching people get angry over video games. And I think it's a similar thing with movies. People want to see people get frustrated. Um, Hopefully, they don't get as much detail wrong as I did with Lord of the Rings, but they want to see, yeah, people just get really angry and annoyed at films.
Out of all the people that I've done research into, I think you're the person that I had the best time with because I was the most overwhelmed with nostalgia. The way that you got into video making is so similar to mine, even to the point of the like yearly timeline that you started doing certain things mirrors mine very well. I don't really like asking questions like this, like how did you get into it or where do you get your ideas? So I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. Do you think that there are some experiences that young people have growing up that inclines them to making videos?
Yes, I think so. I started when I was 15 and I was being bullied at school. So I used it as kind of an escape and escape from reality, the world online, which will be no surprise to a lot of people. I was trying to find that escape, and I think that can be quite common, especially now, because I started in 2007. So YouTube was only 2 years old at that point. It was still really, really new. Not many people were doing it. Now you'd be hard pressed to walk in a room and find people who aren't making YouTube videos.
Hmm.
And I think it's that more common now. If someone's going through a difficult time, it's not particularly hard. You can get a cheap camera and just jump on the internet.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did you start making YouTube videos in your mother's kitchen?
Yes, I did.
Hmm. How'd that start? Why there
Um,
specifically?
so at the time, yeah, like I was 15 and it was just where my PC was located. The kitchen was next to me. I was kind of sat there. It was very awkward for a while. I'd always record when my parents were out, but I remember one day I was filming. It was really, really cringy. But I think it was the first time I swore on the internet, and I panicked in case my mum heard me. It's really, really stupid. And I had to just, it was my first time of editing something out because originally I didn't know how to edit and I was using Windows Movie Maker. So I would just do a straight recording and hit upload. And on this occasion, I swore without realizing, visibly panicked on camera, tried to play it off. And then when
Mhm.
I got to the edit, I was like, no, let me just cut that. So
Mhm.
yeah, a bit cringy. My parents never really knew. Well, they knew I made videos, but they didn't really understand it.
Windows Movie Maker. That really does take me back. Just out of curiosity, what editing program do you use now?
Sony Vegas.
Okay, I see that on your videos when you are talking about movies and other things, you talk about something, show a clip from something, and you use a an isolated clip of like some character being like, "What?" or "That's crazy," and then you have that as a response to what's going on. I when I saw that happen, I thought to myself, "You must like have." You must move pretty quickly to be able to just find those individual bits and then put them in the right spot. I'm not really sure how to even phrase this question, but how do you work in your editing suite? How do you know how to move so quickly and so finely to find the right kinds of clips and put them so to timed so perfectly?
So that was actually ripped off. Doug did this very early on in some of his early work. He did it. I remember with the Ninja Turtles review that he did, and that was kind of I always liked that, and then he stopped doing it. So the way I do it when I watch a movie, obviously I make notes, but I make notes with timestamps. And when I make notes with timestamps, I also put in any quotes from the movie itself that I think might be a funny response.
Mhm.
Just so when I get to the edit, or when I write the script, I'll make an observation or I'll make a joke or something. I can then go to my notes, be like, oh, I'll use that timestamp here, put that in. When I edit, I have two Sony Vegases open at the same time. So I'll be editing the actual review, have the movie on the other timeline, and then I can just quickly jump over, grab the timestamped clip, and then pop it back in.
Wow. To have I didn't even know that it was even possible to have two open at the same time. Wow. Okay. I'm learning so much today. How efficient. I remember you talking about how when you started making videos, you became nocturnal, as in you would work from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., come home, then sleep, then wake up, then have like a dinner breakfast kind of situation. And again, I felt so nostalgic because from 2011 to 2012, that was essentially my life. I worked from 6 to 11 at night, came home, made videos, slept, then woke up at like 1 in the afternoon, played video games, and then worked again from like 6 to 11. And as that was all happening, I was thinking, well, maybe I might be able to take this video making stuff and turn it into some kind of career, join Channel Awesome, get paid for it, and become rich and famous. But I still felt stuck in this cycle that I couldn't really get out of. When you were first making videos, were you thinking in any potent way about what you would do it for in the future, like what your future would be like making videos?
So you have done your research. I'm very impressed. So back then, no, because YouTube was so difficult for it to become a career. I think at that point the most subscribed was Fred, if we all remember Fred.
Mhm.
Um, it wasn't really a common thing. I was on Blip when that started up. Blip was easier to make money than YouTube is now. Uh, but it was never really a goal, but I never really took it seriously. I think at the time I probably thought I did, but I didn't really like take pride in the productions until 2018, 2019, really. So at the time, no, I was just using it as a as an escape, and for some reason I thought that I was Sylvester Stallone and thought I was a bit of a badass.
Mm. Because you were making videos and many other people weren't.
Yeah, I think so. Because people at my school, when I first started making videos, people at my school found them, and some kind of stopped picking on me for it because they thought it was quite cool. But the majority of people picked on me more because the cat. Like, I didn't realize at the time that I'm autistic. I've now been diagnosed. But I've always struggled like with confidence, and in person I'm very shy and anxious. And then they would go on YouTube and they would see me cursing people out, and I'd have the confidence to think that I was the shit, and it was a side that they weren't really familiar with, but they would kind of use that to pick on me further, if that made sense.
Mhm. Yeah, I've always found it strange when people that make videos online, they do skits and they film them outside of their room or their house, and they go like into the street and you can see like their house or their apartment right behind them. And I'm thinking, if someone lives in a similar area to you, they could probably just find you by knowing what that building is. Have you ever been out filming something, one of your skits, or like one of the skits in the middle of one of your videos, and someone like got interested in what you were filming and got in the way?
Um, I I don't think that's ever happened. I bumped into a subscriber once at a convention
Hmm.
while I was vlogging the experience. That's in 2017. That was kind of interesting because my partner was elsewhere. I was in the line to meet Christopher Lloyd, and this guy was dressed as it's not Sherlock, but at the time I thought it was Sherlock. I'm very uncultured, but this guy was dressed as some kind of character, and he kept looking at me. And I was on my own at this point, and I got quite anxious. And I'm really bad with faces, so I thought, do I know this person? And am I not remembering him? And he just kept staring at me for a long time, and I'm stood there in the line, and I'm trying to avoid eye contact. It's a bit weird. And then he finally leaves, and I'm like, okay, good, all right, cool. And then a few minutes go past, and I turn around, and he's still there with his girlfriend looking at me. And I'm like, what is going on? And then eventually he comes up to me and he says, excuse me, are you Cinematic Venom? And I think the actual words came out of my mouth, get the fuck out of here. Because I just never thought I would ever be recognized. And this was 2017, so this is before any of the Channel Awesome stuff.
Hmm.
So I said, yeah. And then he just lost it. It was like, oh my God. He was a big fan of a review I did of Home Alone 4. And I'm the worst person to bump into in public because I'm just so socially awkward. But I ended up putting him in the vlog. I was like, well, I'm filming this whole convention visit, if you like, if you want to come be in the video. Really nice guy. But yeah, that's the only time I've actually really someone's like, I mean, I've been filming some of my previous movie in public and people have watched from afar, but none have really
Hmm.
come up to me now.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that time. I think it was in the Lord of the Rings thing where you were in a tree, and it's like, did someone come up to you and be like, why is he in a tree? It's like, sorry, I'm filming a thing. Could you just like move past?
No, I think I filmed that. I think I had someone behind the camera anyway. Maybe there was like a dog walker who walked past, but none have really said anything.
I'm that reminds me of a thing that happened. I was like 17 driving home from somewhere, and I saw these two kids on the side of the road, like the side of a park near the street, and they had two sticks and they were sword fighting. And as soon as they turned around and saw me driving past, they just jumped away and hid in a bush, like they were embarrassed that someone was seeing them. And it's like they were having fun in public, but they didn't want other people to see. And I
Yeah.
never really thought of that moment until a couple of weeks ago when I was watching your stuff and other people's online reviews of things, their online skits. And humans have not evolved to really understand what videos are, computers, the internet. And as far as why I do this stuff, it was never to become famous. It was always I wanted to have a specific kind of hobby that was just coincidentally viewed by other people. Because if you made the videos and you just kept them on a folder on your computer, that isn't really in the spirit of doing it. You're doing the hobby wrong. That they have to be uploaded. They have to be public. And there's a surprisingly small amount of crossover between people that do online content and people that do like acting on stage or people who are comedians. And it's like when you make a video, it's being viewed by this collective consciousness called the internet instead of individual people physically there in a crowd. So, my question is, do you think that you and maybe other video producers, do you think that you're like those two kids with sticks, where you essentially have a private, public hobby?
Yes, I think for a while when I would start certain jobs and people would ask me, "Oh, what do you like to do?" What I would always lie on the early stages because I was a bit embarrassed, and I'm not really sure why. But yeah, I don't know. It's a bit weird if someone says, "What do you like to do in your spare time?" And I'm like, "I like to dress up as Batman and review movies." Like, it's yeah. Whereas now, I'll pretty much tell people straight away. I mean, tell a lie. I actually think there has been instances now that I'm thinking more about it where I've been filming the new movie that I'm doing and people have just kind of walked past. But to me, I still get anxious, but I've always got someone with me. I'm so like normalized by it now. I remember I did a review of Scream, and that was like the finale of my Halloween series. And at the end of it, I had like a little sketch where I meet Doug Walker, who is just me dressed as the nostalgia critic. And yeah, someone walked past during that exchange. I'm there dressed as the nostalgia critic, and I was just like, "Hey, yeah, this is a normal day for me." And it's happened a few times with the movie, so I'll be in ridiculous outfits, but just a normal day.
You went through all of the Channel Awesome anniversary videos and that audiobook thing, which I didn't know even frickin' existed until you brought it up. I noticed that a consistent theme that you brought up while talking about them is that younger people seem to be under the impression that these movies, when they were released, they were released to mixed reviews and nobody really cared. And your response and my response to me seeing you respond to it is the same, which is we were there. I'm in Australia. I woke up to each installment and just ran straight to my computer. It was the first thing that I did. I hung off every single episode and I loved all of the anniversary movies. And to prove it, I bought Kick-Ass here all those years ago. I think I saw it once. It was okay. Um, so I had to dig this out from like the back of my cupboard because who watches CDs anymore? Um, so we're almost literally the same age. So I'm sure that you watched each installment as it came out because I guess we were like the target audiences, I guess. So for my nostalgic's sake, and for those unaware of the potency of online media criticism videos between 2009 and 2012, what was it like during those years watching Channel Awesome explode and then explode?
So I think because my I primarily focused on YouTube, and I think at the time Doug kept making new channels and kept getting kicked off. I wasn't as familiar with the website originally, so I would watch a lot of his stuff online. There was a YouTube channel. I'm going to try to remember that it was like Leisure Soup Fiend or something that would post all of his reviews.
Hmm.
So when Kikasia, did that just give you a throwback?
I think it did. Yeah, I think they also uploaded like the panels and like the behind the scenes
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah.
So when Kikasia dropped, I actually didn't know. I think I didn't find Kikasia until like the start maybe of 2011, and I watched it, and like you said, it was just cool because I was such a big fan of Doug
Hmm.
and Brad. So seeing them together was pretty cool. I knew Lindsay. I'd seen the Nostalgia Chick, really liked her stuff. I didn't really know anyone else at the time, but Kikasia at the time really liked it. And it got me to check out Film Brain, Matthew Buck, who was absolutely hilarious. Angry Joe was a lot of fun. I think that might have been the only ones I actually checked out from that. But I was there when Suburban Nights came out. And like I say, they wouldn't have done Suburban Nights if Kikasia wasn't a big success. Like that's how
Hmm.
sequels happen. So when people say that they all flopped, it's just not true. Suburban Nights was again a lot of fun. Really liked it. Still do. It's the one that to me personally holds up the most when I revisited them. And even To Boldly Flee, I absolutely adored when it came out. I thought To Boldly Flee was fantastic. When The Uncanny Valley came out, wasn't a fan, but it's a change. It was a different style. So it was cool just to see each year the production increase. And obviously it wasn't to the same level of the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, which production was incredible. But like James is an actual filmmaker, Doug isn't. So no, it was just cool seeing the progression from the creators that we liked.
Hmm. This isn't one of my questions, but this is the Angry Video Game Nerd movie. I liked it when it came out, but I've sort of soured on it a little bit when I've seen other people talk about this, and I'm sort of taking their ideas where it would have been so easy for him, and maybe more importantly, cheaper for him, if he just did like a longer angry video game nerd movie in his place with his friends instead of going like to Hollywood and getting actors and all this stuff. And it just, I mean, James Rolfe may not say this out loud, but it just gave me the impression that he was sort of done making online stuff and wanted to upgrade his production status, his video producing status, to then go make movies, as if he was like, as if he viewed videos as being like this lesser kind of thing. And he's like, whoa, look at me, Hollywood. I can step into your realm and like make a movie. It didn't really work out. Like he's back to making videos again. But like did you ever think that it was like it was weirdly unrelated to his brand?
Yeah, I could see that. It was definitely like an explosion in production. And I remember when I watched all of these films, the Channel Awesome ones, the Change the Channel movies, and then I finished on the Nerd movie. I'm very mean, so I made my fiance watch them with me. And she knows Doug. She doesn't really know any of the others. So from an outsider to watch these films was actually highly entertaining for me, but it was very painful for her,
Hmm.
um, because she didn't like any of them. And then I was like, right, this next one is the nerd movie. This is good. And it was the only one that she actually got some enjoyment out of. And I remember it was the scene where James has the dream and they go to the theme park, and she kind of looked at me and was like, how the hell did he afford all of this?
Hmm.
It's like, it's such a big scale.
Hmm.
But yeah, the nerd movie, it hasn't like weakened it for me yet. I still really enjoy it when I revisited it earlier this year. But I can see some people might not, it might not be their thing.
Well, it may not be their thing if they were expecting like a longer angry video game
Yeah.
nerd episode, which I guess he can't do because he can't really get, an IP that isn't his and then make a movie about him criticizing it. So sure, whatever. Um, from your December 2022 video, what happened to Cinematic Venom question mark? You said the following. My obsession with the past has always been my downfall, and that's the fucking problem. My biggest problem as well is realizing that nobody cares. Not in a negative way, That's the thing with anxiety and depression. You think, oh, no one cares. But you need to change that mindset to think, no one cares. When you're anxious, you're like, I can't go there. They're going to make fun of me. But in reality, they don't give a fuck. So have you always thought stuff like this? And if no one cares, what really motivates you to make the things that you make?
I think, no, I haven't always thought it. It took me a while, but I would always overthink things. So, like I used to read comments religiously, and I could get 10 positive comments, one negative comment, and that's the one that sticks. It's like if you're going away on holiday and you research a place before you go, you get 10 pages of positive reviews, and then it's the one negative one that sticks out. And you're like, oh, I can't do that. What motivates me is just being productive. I'm a bit of a workaholic and a workhorse. Like I will just kind of zone in and get stuff done. I mean, I've just made an entire movie in 1 year, which is now nearly finished as the time of recording this. Literally, it'll be finished in the next couple of days. So yeah, I just think it's to keep pumping out content, just keep working.
Please tell us about your movie, since you mentioned it.
So, Suburban Nights inspired my first movie, which is the worst movie that has ever been made in the history of ever. At the time, I was very much inspired from the Channel Awesome movies, but I seemed to forget that Channel Awesome had an audience. So when Kikassia was 90 minutes of in jokes and very little plot and just Doug doing a voice, it's he had an audience, so it worked. And these other people had an audience, so it worked. So when I tried to do the exact same thing, I didn't have it. I had 400 subscribers when I made my first movie, so it was just in jokes, and yeah, it was really bad. No lighting, editing was awful, no plot, no choreography. The cinematography was crap. It's so horrifically, horrendously bad. Um, After that, I we already knew that we wanted to do a sequel, and over time it became this idea of I'm gonna redeem myself. And it might not be for everyone because it is an acquired taste. I have a really stupid sense of humor, but it is definitely a step up from the first movie, which isn't saying a lot. But yeah, it was my way of saying I'm sorry for making that. I'm gonna do it properly this time. So it's a superhero spoof. Um, Currently two trailers are out. It's premiering. We've actually got a venue on January the 4th. I don't know when I'll release it on YouTube. Sometime next year.
You made a post on your YouTube post page about feeling lost and disheartened by the amount of work that you were putting into videos. And it's evidence that people like us that make videos, a lot of the reason is attention. It sounds kind of douchey to say that, but it's like how a comedian likes when they make people laugh. It's like that kind of same mindset. And it's one of the reasons why I've reinvented my online persona about 3 times. And your Cinematic Venom YouTube page, that wasn't the first one. Um, but when it's time to make certain decisions with starting different channels, certain channels, doing something differently, deleting certain videos, how do you know when it's time to make those choices?
It's a difficult question because I regret a lot of that because yeah, my first channel that was titled Cinematic Venom was 2009. I think I actually got removed from YouTube first, so that one wasn't my choice. But the main one was then set up in 2011. I then deleted that in 2021. Um, but that was something that I shouldn't have done. I was just going through a difficult time, and I have a tendency to think like categorically, this is what I want to do. I'm not going to change my mind on it. Absolutely not. Lo and behold, I end up doing it. Um, but with certain like stopping videos or moving channels or whatever, I think it's just important to weigh up the pros and cons. And yeah, I mean, YouTube, I've been in limbo as far as Cinematic Venom's gone concerned. I've been in limbo for many many years, ever since the change the channel days. So yeah, that's been difficult to try to get out of that.
In your December 2023 video, I Need a Break 2023 recap, you called your Cinematic Venom page your escape. And I've always been very critical of the idea of escapism. When people would say that movies or books are important because it gives you an escape from reality, I would always think, well, why can't they handle reality? They're just admitting to not being strong enough to handle their own life. And then I turned 30 and I went, oh, I get it. What do you think is so important about turning to media for an escape from life?
So it sounds really bad, and like I desperately need therapy, but it's a distraction, and just for example, I can't remember when this was, but there was a time when like everything I did was recorded. So if I wouldn't play video games unless I was recording a Let's Play. I wouldn't watch a movie unless it was for a movie review. And then a while back, I just kind of needed a break from that and just tuned out and just literally played. I can't remember what game it was, but just did some video gaming without the pressure or stress, which I only implement on myself, to be fair, uh, of making a video. And it was just something I really, really needed without that, yeah, added pressure and stress. Cinematic Venom was always the escape because I've got another channel that dives into, true crime and it's a lot more dark and gloomy. Whereas Cinematic Venom, I can show a bit more of my personality and I can have a bit more comedy and I can do reactions and vlogs and put myself out there a bit more, which I can't really do on the other channel. So that's kind of, yeah, that's what I mean by it's an escape. I can let out the comedy. Um, I don't think I'm particularly good at movie reviewing or critiquing or analyzing films, but I do like doing comedy stuff. So yeah.
So what would you create for what yeah, this would be the question. What would you create for specifically an audience around our ages? Because honestly, a 17-year-old could watch your videos and fit in with the candor of what you're saying. So how would you neglect a 17-year-old and target a video towards someone like their mid-30s?
I think nostalgia is a big thing, especially with the amount of like reboots that are coming out. There's almost every year now. There's a legacy sequel from something from my childhood. They did like Hocus Pocus 2. They did a Saved by the Bell reunion. My mind's going to go blank now. I think they're working on a Goonies too. Like basically everything from our childhood, they're bringing back in some form. I think there was rumors of a Home Improvement reunion. Uh, so I think yeah, nostalgia is a big one.
Weren't those 80s things? What about the 90s things? I mean, aren't we both 90s kids? Because we're not old or anything. We're not in our 30s. We're millennials who we'll be young forever.
Yeah, I mean, with the '90s, they did a spin-off of Boy Meets World, which was one of my favorite shows. They're bringing Buffy back. I'm a massive, massive Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, so I know it's going to be shit, but I'm going to watch it and get excited and then disappointed anyway. So yeah, I'm trying to think of what else they brought back from the '90s, but
Yeah,
oh,
this is a thing that I talked about on literally the first episode of this thing, where we seem to have just skipped over the 90s when it comes to nostalgia. We've had like the Ghostbusters remake and stuff, and then we just jumped over the 90s. Now we're sort of reliving the early 2000s again, I guess, with like early 2000s aesthetics. And it's like I either I'm blind to it because I was born in the 90s, or the nostalgia the things that people that make to be nostalgic, it's just skipped over the 90s for whatever reason.
no, that's true. I mean, even something like Ready Player One just focused primarily on the '80s.
Yeah, yeah. And the Iron Giant was there. Was that the 80s? I saw that when I was a kid. Anyway, I heard this stat a few years ago that for most people, 90% of the content that we watch was made on the day that we watch it. And I'm thinking, if YouTube, as an example, implemented this process where a video would get uploaded and then 1 week later it would be deleted and unable to be watched again, do you think that that would really change anything. Because like who's really going back into the back catalog library of anyone's YouTube channel and watching their like 5-year-old videos?
I think it depends on the kind of video that you're making. So like if movie reviews, I think they're time conscious because no one's gonna care what you think of Superman 2025 in 2035.
Hmm.
But just from her first-hand experience with my other channel, the True Crime one, those videos kind of accumulate views over time. They're not things that people kind of flock to immediately. So I think, yeah, some channels would suffer from that. Me personally, I don't watch as much YouTube as I used to, but I do tend to watch them the first like 2 3 days that they come out in my subscriptions.
Hmm. It made me think about as a popular example, the Nostalgia Critic episodes. I'm thinking, why isn't Doug Walker like a quadrillionaire by the fact that he's got like 1,000 videos that you can go back and watch now and he still gets money for it? And it's like, well, no one's going back. No one's going back. Like new fans of his, probably most of them aren't going back and like, oh, okay, I'll start from episode 1 and go up to episode 7 billion. They just watch like the last month and then just go from there.
Yeah.
Um, I've been watching a lot of online critics in response to watching you. The last couple of weeks have been very nostalgic to me. It's been a nice ride. From the last two, I've been watching online critics from like the last two decades. They've been doing this for a long time, and some have kept on doing it. Some have left and gone through other things. Some have just disappeared from the internet completely. Do you ever think that there's going to be a time when you have watched enough, made enough, and that you're just going to stop and become a farmer?
Um, I think I do get bored quite easily, and I'll want to go off and make something else. So I don't think I would ever stop making content completely. If I got bored of something, I would just stop and find some other content to make. Maybe it's farming,
Hmm.
gardening. I don't know. I think I'd always just find something. I'd get so bored not doing anything. I'd have to always make content about something.
I was just reminded of a an interview with. Do you you've referenced this person, but you may not. Do you know Iron Liz?
Yes,
She
I've
yeah
spoke to
she.
Iron Liz before. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Yeah. I remember she was being interviewed and she was asked like her time with Channel Awesome and talking to Linkara about things, and she said something to the effect of, I went up to Linkara and I said, "Are you going to be talking about comic books until you're like in your 50s and 60s?" And I had never really thought of that before. I mean, when you watch these people when you're like teenagers, it's like, oh, they're going to be in their 20s and like early 30s forever. Like Doug's like 42 or something, which I can't even get my head around. I'm like, no, he's 28. He's been 28 for the last decade. It's just weird to get your head around it. So, like, have you thought about the fact that you will be 50 and 60 and you may be making videos, may not?
I try not to think about it, but my kids are very humbling and they constantly point out how old I am. So, my son is really into history and it makes me feel ancient because he comes to me to ask about like 9/11, for example. What was it like and all of this stuff. So yeah, I'm constantly reminded my age. Yeah, I don't really that's going to haunt me now. I'm going to think about it a lot more after this interview. But yeah, I try not to, but I'm sure I'll still be making videos when I'm 75 and retired.
Hmm. You know what I hate? When kids refer to the 90s as the late 1900s, as if it's like the Victorian era or something.
Yeah,
We had computers, we had color TVs, we had
yeah.
kind of cell phones, kind of. Anyway, if someone is out there right now listening to this and they would like to start their own YouTube channel doing stuff, what advice would you give them that you would have wanted to hear when you first started?
So the first one, I saw your interview with Matthew Buck, and I can't remember if it was you or him, but one of you suggested making videos
If it was a good
and
point, it
just
was me.
One of you said about making the videos and just showing it privately to friends, and then once you've kind of honed your craft, then doing them publicly. And I think that's a good idea. I would say do not read YouTube comments. They're a cesspool. Because I mean, it kind of depends. Once you grow accustomed to it, it's not too bad because once you've done this enough times, negativity just kind of bounces off you to a degree. Um, so you can get toxic comments and it just doesn't bother you like, ah, right. But starting off, if you're still new, it can be quite, it can deter you from continuing on. It can be quite disheartening to see, like I say, you get 10 positive comments and then one negative one. And it's the negative one that will stick with you. So I'd say for a while, don't read them, or you can at least ask people for constructive criticism. That's the thing. If they're negative but it's constructive, at least you can work with it. But if someone's telling your mother to drop dead and get hit by a train,
Hmm.
there's nothing you can really use to improve the content. So that's that. Consistency is always key. You know, there's no good making two videos every 4 months and expect it to take off. You have to kind of get the ball rolling and be consistent, be productive.
Maybe the reason why angry, negative critiques of movies and stuff are so popular is because just like how the negative comments stick out to you when someone is angry or upset, that sticks out to you. And
Yeah.
we've come full circle. Where can people go to keep up with all of your content?
So on the Cinematic Venom channel, I have another channel called Seeking Answers. I am actually working very slowly on a website that will compile, because I do have other lesser known channels that I haven't really posted on for a while, but I'm working on a website to compile all of the content in one place a lot easier. So that'll be seekinganswers.co.uk. But yeah, that's coming soon, hopefully.
Brilliant. And that brings us to the final question, which is always the last question that I ask on this thing, which is why are stories important?
I think stories are similar to what I said about the Cinematic Venom channel. Stories are like a creative outlet. I think the writer, actor, whatever, can just kind of take their own personal experiences and implement that in some kind of media. I've done it before. There's a great Charlie Kaufman film called Adaptation. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. Which was literally about Charlie Kaufman was given a book to adapt, but there wasn't a lot of story there. So he literally made the movie's plot surrounded around him struggling to adapt the book. Very, very meta. Um, Great performance by Nicolas Cage. And I think it's just a great way to kind of, as corny as it sounds, let people's emotions and feelings out through, whether it be a book like J.K. Rowling implemented her grief with her mother's passing into the Harry Potter stories, or a TV show or movies. I think it's just a great way to kind of, yeah, let our feelings and emotions out through that kind of medium.
Marvelous. Rob Boor, thank you very much for coming on to One Story Building.
Thank you for having me.